Parawinging. It's a really exciting new part of foiling and it's got so much potential. But like everything in foiling, there's a really steep learning curve and parawings are no exception. In the early stages, you can expect a lot of wipeouts, most of them resulting in the parawing ending up in the water. If you're lucky, like in this clip, the parawing will relaunch from the water without too many problems, and you might even be able to keep the parawing in the air during a wipeout. Obviously that's the ideal situation, but not always possible. There will be times when you're faced with a tangled mess of lines and materials sort of floating in the water, and your reaction, if it's anything like mine, may well be a mixture of panic and frustration. Now, I'm no expert at parawinging yet. I'm still very much in the early stages, but I have reached a level where I can relaunch my parawing from the water fairly easily and without much worry at all now. And I was surprised at how quickly I got to that stage. So I thought I'd share my approach on how I deal with relaunching a parawing from the water to help anyone who's either thinking of starting to parawing but is being put off because they think the lines are just too much hassle to deal with, or for those people who might be struggling with the water relaunch. First and most important of all, don't panic. Climb onto your board and assess the situation. Make sure you're upwind of the parawing, otherwise it can get pushed onto you by the wind and swell. Next, check your bar and lines and deal with any issues here first. You don't want to pull the lines if the lines are wrapped around the bar or around the parawing itself. Here in the video, I'm untangling the harness line. It's so important to make sure everything is untangled before you start pulling on the bar and lines, or it makes it so much worse to deal with. Next, you need to locate the leading edge of your parawing and lift it out the water. As you do so, the wind will fill the parawing, and when it's done that, you simply let it go, remembering of course to keep a firm grip on the bar. Sounds simple? Well, with practice, yes it is. But there's much more to it than that, so I'll play a few more examples, each time going into a bit more detail. In this example, the parawing landed upside down and upwind of me. So the first thing I'm doing is to gather everything up and move it downwind of me, making sure that I don't get the lines tangled on anything in the process. Once I've done that, I locate the leading edge and hold it with my hands as far apart as possible as I lift it up to let the wind catch it more easily. As soon as that's happened, I can let it go and the wind basically takes over, opening up the parawing and letting it fly. This next clip shows how I try to position my hands as wide apart as possible on the leading edge before letting it go. This really helps the wind to fill the parawing and it gives it the best chance of a successful relaunch. Now, this is the 5.5 D-Wing from Flow. It's a light wind machine and as such it's big. There's a lot of material here and the lines are considerably longer than the BRM Kanaha from the previous clips, both of which makes relaunching harder. So I've included this video because the wind in this session is right at the lowest end of the 5.5 wind range, and as such it really helps me to show some of the most important points that I've learnt about water relaunching. So let's have another look at this clip and see what we can learn from it. When your parawing lands on the water in this position, if there's enough wind, then pulling on the middle front lines is usually enough to lift up the leading edge, just enough so that the wind can fill the canopy and it'll do all the hard work for you getting it up into the air. However, when the wind is too light for this, like in this clip, I gather up all the lines to keep them from getting tangled and pull the parawing close enough to me so that I can easily reach the leading edge. Now the D-Wings have a really useful colour pattern. Not only is the leading edge a completely different colour from the rest of the canopy, in this case white, but it also has two very useful blue sections which allows you to position your hands centrally on the leading edge. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to position your hands centrally on the leading edge as you lift it up. If you're off center too much, the chances are when you release it, the parawing will just fold in on itself, flap around and slap back down on the water. Once your hands are in the right position and you're holding the leading edge up, be patient. If you rush at this stage, there is a very high chance you'll just have to start again. Wait for the right moment before releasing the parawing. I think the next clip of the D-Wing from the same light wind session will show exactly what I mean. As before, I'm gathering up all the lines and pulling the parawing towards me so that I can reach the leading edge. In this case, my left hand, I'm grabbing the blue section, and in my right hand, I want to get to the other blue section, but because it's out of reach, All I need to do is grab the leading edge and pull it towards me in stages so that my right hand can now reach the blue section. And now my hands are in the right position, so I can hold the leading edge up. But as you can see, there is so little wind at this point that I have to wait. And the key thing here is to wait until the wind has lifted the Parawing completely out of the water. Now in stronger winds, this isn't necessary, because it can pull the last little bit of the Parawing out of the water. But in light winds like this, if you release the Parawing before it's completely out of the water, it'll just stick and flop back down again, causing you to start all over again. So it's really important not only to wait until the wind fills the canopy, but also until the wind has lifted the canopy completely out of the water before releasing it. And finally, in super light winds, as soon as the lines go tight, pull the bar. This will help it move as high above your head as possible, which reduces the chances of it falling out of the sky. Now that's my take on normal Parawings, but how about the F1 plume? Yeah, this is a completely different beast. Obviously because it has an inflatable leading edge. Now I'm not going to go into all the technical aspects of the plume right now, but suffice to say, relaunching is ridiculously easy. It just sits there and waits for your input. It doesn't ever get into a problem unless, of course, you land it on its back, which I did once, but then you just treat it a little bit like a wind wing. You've just got to sort of flip it over, but not even fully. It gets onto its side and then it again goes back to its beautiful behavior of just sitting there waiting for you to just pull on the bar and let it go up in the air. Simples. So I hope this has been helpful in getting your heads around water relaunching Parawings. As I said at the start, this is early stages for me. I'm not an expert, and there will be people out there who have got different and better techniques at relaunching than me. I'm sure you noticed in this video that I'm using full drive with Parawings, and I'll be making a video soon to explain my reasons why I think it's such a good combination, and to share my experiences with how all of that goes. I'll also be doing some reviews of some of the different Parawings that I use along the way and how they perform based on how I intend to use them. And that will be mainly for long distance upwind runs with a Parawing so that I can then downwind again just with full drive. So in the meantime, I hope you all enjoy the Parawing experience, and I thoroughly recommend that you start if you haven't already. And if anyone's got any questions based on this video, I will certainly try my best to answer them as quick as I can. So, more to come later. Cheers.